Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Tuesday, March 18th. We are covering one of the first four games in Dayton, Ohio for the 2025 NCAA college basketball tournament. Jake, we just got through recording the bracket preview special, whatever. I think it was about 3 hours of content split into two episodes. Maybe I should have split it into three. I don't know. So at this point, I feel like our heads are spinning. We've already named a champion. I don't know why we're going back to this game, but here we are.
It's already happened. We're already through.
Exactly. We already know everything, how it's played out. Unfortunately, that's not true. As we talk about all the time, we will lose a lot, but we will win more when we win than we lose when we lose, and that's one of the key principles that drives our success here. So just a reminder, when we say something like 55% or an average game or whatever, the idea is we don't know what will happen in one game. A bunch of picks will lose, but again, we win more when we win than we lose when we lose, and that's really the bottom line of what drives us around here. Some reminders real quick: the average gets 100. Higher implies more points, so when you see these two teams, offenses will want to be higher, defenses will want to be lower. It is a player-based model, so the ratings reflect the current roster, which of course matters with injuries, as we've discussed many times, though. It only estimates what happens if everything else stays the same and you just plug in other people into that spot, proportioning around the minutes as would be assumed. If a team, because of an injury styles, decides to change styles completely, that's a different matter. And so that's something else that we consider and talk about if appropriate. If you are interested in getting more information about all these college basketball games, we get projections for all the college basketball, NIT, everything is already out there for all of our members on Dub Club. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Of course, Thursday, Friday, we still have some TBDs that will fill in all sorts of goodies, and a new all low pricing threshold, only $29.99 a month. The link in the show description will get you your month for half off, so no reason not to jump in now and get all the college basketball. Baseball's about to get going, hockey season still going strong, multiple other handicappers covering a bunch of other sports, which has just been great, and we're continuing to try to expand there as well. It'll be a little bit of a process, but so far it has been just dynamite. Jake, you did a great job the other day selling Dub Club. What's your elevator pitch here for Dub Club? What do you got? Why should people mess with us?
Like, one, the NHL alone, right? Like, I think, I'm not sure how tonight, I hadn't looked at tonight, but there's what, 7 straight winning days that will cover at least a couple months, if like depending on what you're betting. One, probably two, even if you're a very small time better. And you don't really have to know the NHL to know that. You just play the top plays, and you're just printing money. MLB was great last year, and we've been fairly hot since we've come back to college basketball. I think we've what, 6 of our last 7 or 5 of our last 6. We only missed Michigan State by one in that championship game. The rest of them we've hit with really relative ease, and it's been so much fun here recently. Can't wait to continue it. And March is the perfect month to do it. You get 3 of the sports we cover with March Madness, hockey, and MLB. That'll keep you on until we get to football season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are excited to be back after our hiatus here now. From lower number of shows, and then just kind of a straight hiatus there for again, as you talked about, just personal life and things being crazy for all of us. But we are really excited to be back. Last week went phenomenally. We've already again got a lot of content here for this week, back all week with more March Madness coverage. There are, of course, two first 4 games on Tuesday night. We'll be back again 24 hours from now to discuss one of the Wednesday night games, but one is more interesting than the other. So we're going to default to the more interesting of the 2 games. Doesn't mean you can't make money on both games, but we did actually give you the preview for this in the college basketball show for the first game. So you can actually see what the model already thinks about this if you want to go back and watch that. For the late game here Tuesday night, North Carolina, San Diego State, Jake, a lot has been talked about North Carolina. Do they deserve to make the tournament or not? And one of the key things I want to point out here, because people are going to look at this and see North Carolina overall number 29, San Diego State overall number 54. This is not a resume ranking. This is where I think they are based off of today, based off the talent, based off of everything that we can see, how good the model thinks these teams are. And that's very different from resume. So we talk a lot about just because a team is better than the other doesn't necessarily mean they've earned it or deserve it or vice versa. The easy case to talk about that, of course, is with injuries. But even in a case like this, you have to wonder, did North Carolina do enough against the top tier opponent to guarantee their spot in the field? And that's been something a lot of people have questioned, especially, of course, in light of what happened with West Virginia. Is different from, they're still a really good team, even if they couldn't quite get over the hump against all those top tier opponents. And they're still, according to the model, a better team than San Diego State. According to the model, the difference in this game is going to come in the fact that it's strength on strength North Carolina offense on San Diego State defense. That should be a treat to watch. But North Carolina's defense is much better than San Diego State's offense. We think North Carolina wins by about 4-5. The market's at 4-5. It's somewhere in that ballpark. We all kind of maybe, we like North Carolina here, Jake. We don't really love the number ballooning out, and so instead we're actually going to talk about the total. Interesting enough here, the model says 141, the market's at 142. What does that mean? That doesn't necessarily mean play under. In fact, when it's 1 point away like that, what it means is the model's not saying anything. The model's not really giving us direction one way or the other. It's saying it sees the world like the market sees the world. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't something else there. Jake, you think there's something else there to this total? What is it?
Look, I think the over. Typically, we've got pace. Like the pace goes to the better team. You've got North Carolina rated as the better team. I don't think anybody, not too many people in the world out there are going to go player by player and say, "Oh, San Diego State's the better team."
And there's a reason North Carolina's a solid favorite. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the consensus. It's
yeah,
pretty clear.
yeah, and love San Diego State what they've done this year, but North Carolina has just well underperformed in most games. But 9 of their last 10 games, or maybe 8, have gone way over this number.
Mm.
And I mean, they're dragging some slower teams up there. They're putting up 90s. And I mean, San Diego State's going to. I don't think they're going to put up 90 on San Diego State, but mid 70s isn't out of the question to 80s, depending on how this game goes, especially with free throws, fighting for your life. The games like this, especially ones that are close, tend to, especially this tournament, like where teams would normally pull off and give up in the regular season, they keep going because there's not anything left. So you get a few extra
You see the
fouls.
same thing in the conference tournament season, right? When
Yeah,
when you get outside of the top whatever 40 teams in the country, right? The other teams all playing in the conference tournament, it's the same thing. You'll see teams down fouling 12 because they're just
yeah,
like, whatever. What else
yeah.
are we gonna do? You know?
Yeah, like you trying to get a little bit more, just maybe a chance, off chance, and then you got the guy that fouls after the coach has already said it because he just doesn't want it to end yet, or he missed the message, one of the two. But
Wasn't North Carolina one of those teams a couple of years ago that started randomly fouling with like 2 minutes to go, really pushing the envelope there? I don't know if they would do
I
that
think that
here,
was
but that
against
would be
Kansas
awesome.
with Azubuike or whatever that could
Okay.
free throws for anything. Like I think it was a legitimate strategy to
Yeah,
try.
no, they I think they multiple times would do that. They would find someone that was a weak free throw shooter and they'd foul with like 2 minutes to go and be like, if you're not going to take this guy out, we're just going to take our chances that he misses one or both and we're going to get the ball back. And the only way we can come back is multiple possessions. And so we need to accelerate the number of possessions.
I have long thought as 1-on-one's going to be out there.
Mhm.
When you get
You
tight,
should always
don't wait to the 1 minute like
don't
after that. Do it immediately and get like
do it immediately right when it happens, no matter the time of the game. Put a crap player who's not going to foul out and intentionally foul their worst guy, because then what's going to happen is the next time you foul is going to be on a guy going to the basket, and the next time you foul is going to be a guy shooting a jump shot, and the next time you foul is going to be a guy going to the basket. And guess what? You just lost all 3 of your 1-and-1s right
yeah,
there because they were all shooting fouls.
yep, yeah. I mean, yeah, but that's a different basketball
Yeah,
discussion. I mean, back to this over.
yeah.
If you look at the last handful of games for San Diego State, you have 138 with the win over New Mexico. You have 141 with the win over Wyoming. You've got 141 with the loss to UNLV. 141 with the win over Nevada, and then 115 or something like that for the loss to Boise State in the tournament. So that would tend to say to me that San Diego State's defense is either letting up more points or they're trying to play a little bit faster to get it to their offense, which isn't that bad. Uh, Fun note though, from a handful of years ago, the Florida Atlantic run, San Diego State's leading scorer was one of the better players on the Florida Atlantic Final Four run. So I mean, that just makes basketball fun. Just
Mm.
people chasing teams that beat them around. Um, but I just think North Carolina's pace is going to be addictive. You're going to like it might start slow. Don't fall off. Don't panic because every time you have one of these newer gems and everything new takes a little bit. But I think the threes are going to fall. You're going to have R.J. Davis, who is exceptional player. Uh, I think he's going to carry North Carolina through this game really, and he does that mainly through the three ball and making great passes to get more three balls. You've got a very talented North Carolina team that's deep, plays a lot of guys. Cade Tyson is also a big transfer get that's done nothing this year. He was a great shooter at Butler. It would not surprise me, or in Butler, Belmont. It would not surprise me if he comes in randomly in one of these tournament games, could be this one, and rolls off 9, 12 points off 4 or 5 threes. Like he's, oh, that's bad math. 12, 15 points off
Whatever.
4 or 5 threes. You know, like it would, like he's bound to have.
We've
He's
done like 3 hours of content today. The fact that we even have words at this point is kind of impressive to me.
yeah. But it's yeah, I think everything leans towards the offenses in this game. I think it's gonna be a tight game. We're gonna get the fouls at the end, and I think the pace, pace always, not always, but most of the time goes to the better team. And even if San Diego State's forcing turnovers, the way Carolina will play is try to get back into is run back down the floor. Carolina's also a very good offensive rebounding team and defensive rebounding team, so that means the ball's in their hands more often, which is going toward the faster pace. I think we're getting over this low 140s. I wouldn't play this up like to the mid 140, like wouldn't
Mm.
anything above 145, but low 140s. I'm definitely playing over.
And we talked about that about a few games in the bracket show too, that we don't have to always only play what the model says and that sort of stuff, and the model's fallible, right? And no model's perfect, and you all have heard me say that it sometimes just gives us a glimpse as to where there might be value. And sometimes we have these situations where we say the model kind of agrees with the market, but we kind of think there's an edge. And then the fact that the model's projection is there gives us an idea of maybe just how far away we should stray based off how much we like it, right? And you're saying model says 141. I'm okay going over 142. I'm okay going over 143. Okay, 144. 145, right? And it's kind of telling you like now you're getting really far away. You're going really out on a limb, and that might be just telling you, not to say it doesn't hit. It might be just telling you we don't have quite the value that we think we do in that. But I really like what you said too, and it kind of aligns with what we just talked about. You listed a bunch of schools that they played recently that I'm not going to say are like snail teams. Boise kind of can be, but depending on, but I think North Carolina can get when you had 138s and 141s in there. I'm like, North Carolina is good enough offensively and plays fast enough. They can bump us up a few points from that, like say get us to like 144, and that's really all that we need here. We don't need them to do out extraordinary things. We just need them to do a tiny bit more, and North Carolina hopefully, brings that to the table for us. Uh, Jake, this is a very interesting pace battle. You kind of mentioned it. I don't know when the last time I mentioned it was, but we've talked about it for years now with pace. That statistically speaking, it tends to go to the faster team, it tends to go to the home team, and it tends to go to the better team. Now, that's what it tends to do, and how much better the team is, what sort of home court advantage, etc., how strong the team's will is. There's a bunch of factors, of course, but in general, in a battle of paces like this, we tend to say, well, there's no home edge, of course. The better team, North Carolina, might tend us to go that direction, and that kind of leads you at least to a starting point of over or pass, and then we just have to figure out what the pass point is. Right now at 142, we're still good. Its number's probably been out long enough that I don't think it'll deviate too much from that until maybe closer towards tip. And you never know sometimes those last 3-4 hours exactly what happens with the number, because then it's just the limits are completely lifted, and then it's just everything is chaotic. Uh, Jake, last thought here on this one. We talk a lot about momentum coming into the tournament and how these teams have played lately, and all these factors like that. When we talk about these first four teams, there's always a little bit of extra, where are their legs at? Because of the fact that they just came off playing, potentially just came off conference tournament. Um, versus teams that get a little bit more rest, as we move forward. Is any of that kind of factoring in your mind on this one? Because it's very different from the first game where sometimes they have the opposite problem. Sometimes their tournaments were a full week ago and they almost have that like have to get it back going again for the teams that haven't played since, a full week or longer. Do you see any fatigue, any leg things here?
Not really. Both these teams would probably be coming off what your normal rest would be. I mean, I think Friday for North Carolina and Thursday for San Diego State. So you're looking at just under or just right around half a week, which feels like what your normal regular season breaks would be on a typical week. So I
Right.
don't think that. I think your um, biggest fear there is be like San Diego State travel. Um, they did have
Hmm.
the extra day off that North Carolina did, but they're also
Those three
going
time
from
zones.
yeah, and so getting adjusted to body clock and the new gym. So like that's why I say like don't panic at first
Well,
because
the body clock part at least should be fine because it being the later game, but it is still three time zones. That's tough to travel. It takes about a day to get used to each time zone you cross. And because this didn't come out until Sunday night, I doubt they got on a plane Sunday night and left. They probably didn't leave here until Monday, which means that's a lot to adjust to getting there, and that's a long flight. And now you probably did. Then what'd you do? A walk around or something when you got there, like a little light, whatever, and on Monday night, and then boom, you got to play the next day. Like that's not ideal for sure. Which again is what we like to do
no,
with Carolina. It's just we wish that that number wasn't quite so far out.
yeah. So like that's why I'm mentioning don't panic at first. I think you might get a sluggish 4 minutes from San Diego State there, but then I think they'll respond with as good as their defense is. They'll go on a run or two that'll really get this total right back in pace.
General comment here about these first four. As someone who's been there, uh, it feels hard to score in that gym. It's darker. The ceiling's like a little lower. It's not quite the ballroom, but it just it feels the way it's designed. It's like the backdrop's a little bit awkward, and teams have historically early on in Dayton seemed to struggle with points. I don't know if they're still struggling with points or if that's just been built into the market because I've noticed in the last couple of years there were times when I was thinking, "Oh, this is a good under spot from what the model says." And I already like in that arena going under in this situation, and it started slow just like you were saying, and then somewhere in the middle of the first half it started picking up and never let down and I'm thinking, "This isn't the type of game I expected here. I really expected a we're gonna earn our place in the March Madness and grind it out defense and slower possessions and that standard championship like get the best look possible whatever and somehow it turned into this up and down really fun but kind of chaotic basketball. I've seen that and so the reason I want to say that is I just don't want anyone thinking uh you know new gym it's got to be an under because I think that's not really been backed up by data recently as either teams have figured it out a little better or the books have or whatever it is. The unders just haven't been quite that same lot that they've been at some times here early in the tournament. And so there's the same reason why we don't recommend betting first half unders blindly in the first 2 days. And we used to because we were killing it. Even our worst year doing that, we would still, go like 20-12 or something. And so there's just things to keep in mind that sometimes those mantras or whatever, maybe they don't hold true anymore. Maybe the books have adjusted. And so go over, go under, do whatever you want. Don't just think that there's some built in edge there. We're going to go over 142 here in the bigger of the two games here. Tuesday night, we will be back to cover. Wednesday, we'll cover some stuff for Thursday, Friday moving forward. It'll be a lot of fun. But you can get all of the NIT projections, all this college basketball projections and everything, including all this information. If you want to pause that and see just all sorts of fun things that the model spit out, you can compare and contrast this to other models that are either publicly or privately available as well and see where they disagree or agree with regard to the team rankings. Again, a player-based model, so just keep that in mind for situations where that might matter, especially if you're looking at a team, say like Duke, and where Sideline has them, barely number one right now versus most other metrics that are not player-based, would have them running away with number one, of course. And that means because the uncertainty of Cooper Flag. But again, there's other ways ways to support the show if you're interested. You can drop us $1 here and sign up for the Picks Only package. Special promo price here for your first month. And just get a bunch of extra picks if you've enjoyed all the content. We'd appreciate you checking that out. Otherwise, Jake, parting words here before we wrap up a long day of college basketball coverage, kicking off one of the best weeks of the year.
Yeah, this as we said, this is the best week of the year. I can't wait. And like I said on a previous show, if I'm ever elected, the whole month it's going to be at least the time around the March Madness is going to be a national holiday and nobody will work. So
I'm definitely down for it for the Thursday and Friday for sure. We could take 2 days off as a country. I feel like we'd be fine. Other countries do way worse, and their economies are just chugging along. It doesn't hurt them. And while we're at it, we probably should add day after the Super Bowl
yeah,
and probably opening day for baseball just to get back to the day games because it's a fun tradition.
yeah. There's only so many things you can do, and my first priority would be March Madness. So
Yeah. But I mean, we could easily get 4 or 5 days out there, and I feel like we'd be fine. You know, we
yeah,
can we
oh
can.
yeah.
Anyway, as always, we do thank you for watching. We wish you the best of luck here in your sports betting here with the March Madness. We hope we can help you out with hockey and everything else that's going on here. But reminding you, as always, that you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.